The journey begins. The path of the child begins with a young child who appears to be setting out on a journey. Although, representing infinite potential as he does, he may just as well be returning from his quest. He has nothing but a small pack with him, and walks towards a cliff and into the unknown. As he is filled with ideas of adventure, he appears to be paying no attention to what is happening around him. Excited by the potentials he may encounter along his way, he doesn't even notice that he is about to walk off a cliff. With these steps, the child embarks on the story of a lifetime. But will he learn to pay attention before it's too late? Setting out upon his journey, the child encounters the wizard. The wizard shares all of his attributes with the child, the four elements which he carries with him. The child is very excited to receive such gifts, which are invaluable on his quest. A disc, a cup, a sword and feather, a wand, and parchment and pen. With gratitude, the child now experiences an expanded sense of the nature of his journey and what it represents. Continuing on his adventure, the child meets the priestess, a powerful young woman who reveals to the child that just having the elements of a story does not necessarily make the story great. She explains to the child that there is a natural ebb and flow to life, and that by living in our hearts and with intuition, we can go with the flow and live the life of our dreams. She reveals to the child that this knowing comes from inside of us. The child continues on his way with a new sense of inner illumination. Next, the child comes to meet a powerful emperor, embodying structure, law, and order. His head is turned toward the sun, and he explains to the child the value of inner and external structures. By following the laws of nature, we find a deeper sense of who we really are inside, and how to get along with all of creation, of which we are a part. Soon after, the emperor introduces the child to his wife, the empress, a mature and sacred woman who holds the entire earth in her lap. She sits with a gentle bearing in a serene environment, nurturing and supporting all of life which she cares for. The child inquires into her nature, and she explains that her nature is nurture, to care for those around her, including herself. The child recognizes this nurturing aspect of himself and becomes aware that he is not the only one on a life journey. Everyone is in their own way, and he can be a supportive and uplifting person in the lives of everyone he meets. The Empress urges the child forward on his journey to go and see what the Divine Feminine has brought into the world. With this newfound information, the child resumes his journey and finds himself meeting what appears to be a great spiritual master who appears as a unified spirit in three bodies: the Father, the Mother, and their infant. They are called the Hierophant, and they radiate a luminous light that touches anyone they meet. They reveal to the child the magic that is within him. He is not the mind, the body, the feelings, or even the passionate drive for life. Rather, he is an illuminated soul that guides and molds all four. Beginning to feel enlightened, the child is guided to a mysterious courtyard. The child is astonished to find that everyone he's previously met, the wizard, priestess, emperor, and empress, have all gathered for a sacred wedding. The child recognizes the pattern. All these opposing personages find perfect harmony and union with each other, entirely through the power of love. He is delighted to recognize that this balance of opposites exists within his own self as well. With this newfound inspiration, the child feels prepared to go anywhere and do anything. Feeling very accomplished, the child presses forward and sees a great chariot with a suit of armor upon it, moving at a phenomenal speed. The charioteer reaches out and grabs the child, pulling him onto the chariot as they speed along, with full control over where they are going. The charioteer reveals to the child that the chariot represents his own inward and outward motion, and the trajectory of where that motion is heading. The child is amazed at this revelation, seeing how far and how fast he has come, that his own journey is propelled by such motion. The child soon alights from the chariot and is filled with gratitude for the lesson. Propelled by his inner motion, the child soon comes to a grove where a young woman is playing with a great lion. She strokes his mane and, noticing the child, beckons him over. "How are you so close to the lion without being eaten?" the child asks. She smiles, wrapping her arms around the great beast. "We share the same passion for life. Our hearts are in sync," she responds. The child then realizes that within him, these two represent his own higher and lower selves, each with its own unique desires and will. When they are united in the heart, even the great ferocious lion may find itself calm and peaceful in the presence of beauty. He comes across a clearing and sees a hermit sitting on a stump deep in meditation. That looks great, thinks the child, as he walks over to the hermit and sits down. Deep into meditation he goes, and in this trance-like state he hears the voice of the hermit in his mind. This is the vastness of your inner world, and all that you can explore to know thyself. The child is amazed to find that the totality of what is within him could be explored forever. He also notes how peaceful it is here, away from the hustle and bustle of the towns, which before was all he knew. Finished with his meditation, the child continues his journey, and eventually hears some gentle music. It is sweet and sublime and resonates deeply in the child's heart. He walks towards it, and in time finds the musician. The child asks the musician who he is. "I am Elijah," he replies. The child compliments Elijah on his music, but Elijah insists that the music is not him, but flows through him. He explains that there is an ebb and flow to life, up and down, yin and yang. If we can listen to and watch the natural currents, we can ride the waves of life and experience amazing life lessons no matter where we are or what we are doing. The child is blown away by this, realizing the greater wheel of flow all around him. With a greater sense of purpose on his journey, the child presses on, eager to find out who he'll meet next. Leaving the forest, the child encounters a strange sight. A powerful woman with a large triangular crystal, who holds out a great scale. She is strangely luminous, and he thinks this woman must be an angel. Approaching her, the child discovers the nature of her being. She is the symbol of balance. She reveals to the child that no matter what he does, no matter where he goes, there must always be a striving for equilibrium and balance. And if he does not actively strive for balance, balance will find him. The child hears the music of Elijah and remembers the yin and yang, ebb and flow that turn heaven and earth, and recognizes that he will not inflict karma upon himself if only he strives for inner balance above all things. Thanking Lady Balance for her wisdom and this newly centered sense of being, the child proceeds on his journey. His next meeting again surprises him. He sees a man hanging upside down, his hands pegged to an upside-down cross. The sight frightens the child at first. Who is this hangman? The hangman reveals his name to the child, who is instantly humbled. The hangman also explains why he hangs upside down. He is making a sacrifice in order to embody a higher consciousness. A full cup cannot be filled. We must empty ourselves in order to be filled. The child, hearing the wisdom in this, desires to understand, so he too decides to hang himself upside down as a representation of self-sacrifice in order to receive the gift of higher consciousness. Hanging upside down, he closes his eyes and is greeted by another figure, this time his inner vision, death. The child fears that his journey is over, that he has died and this is the end for him. Death shows the child a path and takes him on an inner journey through a great green gateway into a vast light. The child is filled with this light, knowing and understanding a deeper purpose, as his entire sense of identity and ego dissolves. The child then sees the earth through a portal and eagerly returns to his body. Returning to his body, the child undergoes a metamorphosis. He experiences resurrection. Having now dismantled all aspects of the ego, he finds himself to be a clear soul with many new aspects of himself to work with. He recreates, molds, and shapes a new sense of self, rising in the air with radiant light, embodying all that light from his vision with death, but now brought into his physical form. He is now perfectly balanced between his masculine and feminine qualities. Filled with passion and a newfound spiritual connection to life, he moves on, but he immediately encounters a frightening figure, the devil. The devil holds out a handful of gold to the child, who sees that behind the devil are two chained people who have already bound themselves to the devil. However, the child notices that their chains are so loose that they could leave at any moment if they chose to. In this, the child realizes the nature of the devil, not a force of evil, but a symbol of desire. The child sees that he has chained himself to his desires in the past, but will no longer let his earthly desires control him. His soul's true desire, instead, will take the lead on this journey. The child thanks the devil for the timeless lesson and forges ahead. He approaches a great and mighty tower, with a brilliant yet dark and angry looking eye blazing on the top. He enters the tower and realizes as he walks through it that this tower represents and embodies his old state of being. He used to be materially focused, limited in his consciousness, not seeing the bigger picture or the nature of the inner light. The moment he realizes this greater truth, that his old way must collapse, he explodes into a brilliant white light, and the tower comes crashing down to earth, revealing a luminous shining star in the sky above him. Looking closer at the star, he sees with his third eye a mysterious angelic form hovering over the earth. This womanly angel appears to be drawing energy from the star and delivering it to the earth below. A sense of warmth, compassion, and deep trust fills the child's heart. He suddenly knows the vastness of the cosmos and sees how small he is compared to infinite space. But still, he is filled with faith because he knows now that there are powerful and magical forces guiding all of reality, including his own journey. As he continues peering into the sky, he also recognizes that the moon is looking down at him, and he experiences himself in a deeply reflective state. Looking up at the moon, he finds himself compelled to face his fears and look deep into his subconscious, a realm he has not ventured into yet. Deep into his hidden self he goes, treading toward the light of the moon within, very aware that in this deep dark abyss, if he were to go off course, he might become lost in his subconscious. Reaching the moon at the end of his path, he looks into the moon and sees himself reflected there. He recognizes that he was the one causing the moon to reflect light, that he is actually the sun. Exploding with golden light, the child experiences the majesty of the sun within his own heart, illuminating his vessel and shining bright through him. In this experience is true enlightenment, and the radiant generosity that comes with experiencing such a profound and joyous love. With this radiant within him, he rises into the air. A new aeon is upon him. As he rises above the earth, he sees a great transcendental portal above him. He opens his arms and rises up, sharing in the spirit of the phoenix, about to be reborn anew. He realizes that the entire world is coming along with him, for his journey has profoundly affected the world around him, just as the world has affected him. What lies on the other side of the portal? The child emerges from the portal on the other side and rises into a mystical cosmic space. Around him, his Merkaba is active and radiantly spinning, and the child looks forward to see a great celestial dragon and someone riding it, beckoning him to come on another cosmic journey. But the child also has another profound experience. Physically, he finds himself standing on a cliff, that same cliff where he started his journey so long ago. In this new state of being, though, his perspective is entirely different. He looks out at the world with new eyes, realizing that the purpose of his journey was not to disconnect from his physical body and become a spiritual creature, but to find a fusion and harmony between mind, body, and spirit. With this new enlightened perspective, the child once again decides to set out on a journey.